Welcome once again, everybody, to another edition of After Further Review with Mark Ferrera and John Pelkey. I am John Pelkey. Mark Ferrera doing yeoman's duty on After Further Review today. Jeff Taylor on the road with a paying gig, and I'll be Googling that to see what that actually means, because I have no idea.
Yes, seriously.
Will be, but he's out of town for a couple of days. So Mark, you have to handle the technical aspects of the show. For people who don't know,
I do.
Outside of the period of time that you see me on the show, I wash my hands of any responsibilities for the show whatsoever. I'm not involved in the marketing aspect of the show. I do my due diligence in research, particularly for deep dives. But outside of that, I know nothing. And I remember Jeff saying, you know, I'm going to be out of town. I'm working, I think, the Academy of Country Music Awards or something that he's working.
Yeah, he's in Nashville.
He's in Nashville, great town. Doing that, and he's like, I don't know what's going to happen. And you know, I got up this morning and I'm doing my stuff, and I thought, gee, I wonder what's going to happen. And then I realized I was not consulted in any way, and that you took over, and I couldn't be happier about it. I could not be happier.
Well, we've taken your cue. You've asked not to be consulted in any way, shape, or form.
I can't. I'm like, you know, Jimmy Page famously used to, the way he'd like to go to a concert with Led Zeppelin was he wanted to, pile in the limo at the hotel, drive up to the back, run out of the car, have somebody hand him the guitar, run on stage, play, then get out. He didn't want anything outside of that. That's all. And that's kind of me with the show.
That's you. You're the Jimmy Page of After Further Review. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I like
that. Because a lot of people, they talk to me, my friends and family talk to me, and the ones that haven't known you for years, like Nana, I'm talking perhaps, Brian is scary. Russ Ayers is a new listener since this new iteration. He's a listener to the podcast, a regular listener to the podcast, loves it. And when he saw our commercial asking who to vote for, in our 2020 campaign, he says he tells me, you're compelling, but I'm a old good friend, and there's two pictures of Russ Ayers in the video,
right?
Which of course I thought through.
Of course you did.
And
you're evil.
But he says you're compelling, and then my other friend Carl, who's a recent listener, says he has a crush on John, but he goes, I've spent more time with Mark, so I guess I'll vote for Mark. So my friends have crushes on you; they're compelled by you, and they just deal with me.
Well, as much as I'd like to bask in the glory of that, I think I will point out to everyone that for either you and I, the key to liking us and enjoying us is to be with us as limited amount of time as possible. I think the more they say distance lends perspective, and
absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and I think that's certainly true with you and I. The more time someone spends with us, the worse we're going to look.
That's true. So, Uncle Bruce has said it best. Uncle Bruce, and he's been a character in our show for a long time.
Yes, he has. Uncle Bruce.
He's former producer Brian Winiger's father, and is a major character in the After Further Review family. And he has said it best. He said, Mark's best in small doses.
Yeah.
And, that's the truth. Truer words are never spoken, John Pelkey.
Me too. I mean, we make an impact in that short period of time. But,
no, we do. But we need to get our exit. We need to make our exit pretty quickly. Once the impact is made, before they, again. I
like to jump in, say something pithy, declare victory, and depart the field. That's kind of my plan for everything.
And my major plan is to do the hail fellow well met. Hail fellow well met. Charm everyone I can see. And after one round of charm, get out. First impressions, I'm very good at.
Yep.
Second, third, fourth, fifth impressions, not so good at. And if the friend hangs long enough, sixth, seventh impressions, they kind of go, okay, I guess he's decent.
Yeah.
But boy, oh boy, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth impressions.
Yeah. Your first impression though is very good. Mine's a little more off-putting normally. So I have to work a little harder to get that sort of initial. I think what I'm shooting for is that people walk away from that initial meeting and go, oh, well, that wasn't so bad. Because I'm sure they've heard what it could be like. But anyway, that's enough about you and I.
I know. Although I will say Lenny and Joe are two regular viewers on YouTube Live. have chimed in and say, no, that's not true at all.
Yeah.
They're very sweet. Not true at all. Not true. Charm then gin. Now that's a good combination.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely. If I do a room and I charm the room and then I have a drink of gin, although maybe that actually doesn't work.
No. We've been through that. We were through that recently with a Ferrerland argument that will live in infamy. All right, so let's not deal with that anymore. All I would say to Lenny and Joe is thank you very much, and you need to travel in better circles. That's how I'm going to leave it with you guys.
There it is.
Huge day. Obviously, opening day of the NFL, Thursday night game notwithstanding. A lot of really interesting stuff happened yesterday. We'll go through, get our initial overreactions. Yes. I love that everyone's picked up on that now. They're like, you do Overreaction Monday, and you get 12 million hits.
Well, I'd like to congratulate the Jacksonville Jaguars for the remarkable run in the AFC North that they're bound to have.
Yes, and their AFC championship finally after in their 14th year or 24th year of existence or whatever it is. 95, I guess, 90 for those guys.
Yeah, this is their, I guess, 26th year technically now.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go. You learn something every day. I was assured there'd be no math. Before we do any of that, we're going to do a progressive trivia, though.
Beautiful.
So
that's a good thing. So we're going to do progressive trivia. It does.
Technically,
we'll see
master this, so we can see.
All right.
If we
so
do that.
Look
at that.
How do we look? It looks pretty good, right?
Yes, it does look. It does look pretty good. We got to change that picture out because that's like a decade ago. And
yes, I have other pictures. I do have other pictures.
I don't look half bad, and it is a picture of you not wearing a hat. So
yeah, which is rare. So.
All right, here we go. Here are our first set of clues looking for an NFL football player, past or present. I've spent 10 plus years in the National Football League. I've played for multiple teams, all of them in the NFC. I'm a 5-time Pro Bowler. My career number, 600 plus receptions, 7,500 plus yards, and 70 plus touchdowns.
Those are good numbers. Those are very good numbers right there.
Are very good numbers. Good player. All right. Now let's jump into yesterday, Mark, and we're just going to do this free form. I'll just get your first impressions. We talked a little bit about this, mainly about our teams, the Washington football team in my case, and San Francisco 49ers in your case. But your overall impressions of Week 1 National Football League games, broadcasts of the games, what it's like without fans. What did you think about yesterday? And were you like me? Did you just red zone the whole day?
No, I didn't actually. I just watched the Niners and then watched and then followed everything on my phone and watched whatever other games there were. But I am basically used to no fans at this point.
Yeah.
If it was the first thing we saw in COVID, the first sporting event we saw in COVID, then I would probably have the reaction I had when I first saw baseball, which is huge depression. But I loved, actually, I'm fine with it now. I'm used to it now. Like anything else, we get used to everything.
Sure.
And I thought it was pretty good. I thought everything seemed pretty normal with the coaches or people on the sidelines with masks. That's all fine. A lot of times the coaches don't have their masks on because
they're apparently going to be. They're apparently the NFL. I saw just before I came on a headline that the NFL is going to reach out to those coaches that were either not wearing the mask or didn't have them over their nose or didn't have them on properly.
Well, and I think part of that is just them communicating with the quarterback, them communicating with upstairs, that kind of stuff. They're probably not used to doing that.
It's like anything. I don't think people were. I don't think there were any.
No one was flaunting anything.
Right. I think it's just in the heat of battle. There's a lot going on, but the NFL does say they're going to address that situation.
I was pleasantly surprised, and I know my Dolphin fans are not going to be pleased with this, but I have a soft spot for Cam Newton.
As do I.
And I have a bit of a soft spot for the Patriots because I do enjoy the greatness. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this before. Technically, they're still they're not the Super Bowl champion, but essentially they're the team to get past, especially if you're in the AFC and especially if you're in the AFC East. And the Dolphins thought maybe this was the chance. There's, I don't know how many New England Patriots players have opted out, John?
37.
I think 37. They have a roster similar to the 1943 Steagles. I think there's 16 or 18.
Two guys from the Steagles actually on the active roster, and they're in their late 80s. So
indeed. So understandably, people thought perhaps New England wasn't going to be strong. I liked what I saw out of them. I was surprised. I was also a little surprised at how Tampa, once that first drive happened, and it looked like, okay, here we go. We're going to have a hell of a year with this, that they sort of steamrolled them.
Yeah.
Tampa made a nice comeback, but New Orleans pretty much handled them. That was a bit of a surprise. I was not surprised with the Cardinals and the Niners.
Despite the fact that I think if you watch New Orleans, even Drew Brees looked like there's still some rust going on there. They did not look offensively particularly high-powered for much of that game. I think both of the defenses in those games, and I think Tampa has a good defense. I think Brees obviously a little bit better because they've been together longer. You know, Brady being introduced to a completely new team. I think you saw some of that even in the post game. Bruce Arians criticized Brady, said a couple of times where, you know, it looked like maybe the receiver had run the wrong route, that no, you know, Mike Williams ran, this is our route. These are things that they've had in place, and he made the wrong read. And I think you're going to see that. But I have a feeling the overreaction to this and the memes were just everywhere yesterday.
Well, I wasn't following on Twitter, but I can just imagine. And I want to say to Bruce Arians, I guess those pick sixes, Bruce, are not necessarily Jameis's fault. Perhaps there's something in your offense
oh boy,
that lends to a pick six, because that really put them away.
Yeah, it really did. But I thought that game was kind of two pretty good teams. I think the Saints are, I would have to say, obviously, after yesterday, a little bit further along than the Bucs. We'll see where that Bucs offense gets. You mentioned New England as well, running the ball incredibly well. Cam gives them something that Brady obviously couldn't. But that's a team that I think if they're going to have success further down the line, and if what we saw from Buffalo yesterday is something we're going to see all season, the passing game is going to have to improve. But I think everybody this side of Seattle and Green Bay, what you saw was the passing games are going to be, you know, there's going to be several weeks of the passing games catching up for everybody.
Well, I think people are ready to make the MVP race between Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Aaron Rodgers looked great. The Vikings did not look good. We talked about this on defense. Seattle looked remarkable.
Yeah.
And Matt Ryan didn't have a bad game.
Not at all.
So what we've suspected about Seattle, despite the holes in their offensive and defensive line, at least yesterday, seemed to bear out. Also, Buffalo, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs.
They look terrific.
That's exciting too. It's always fun to see a team that has been so much a doormat for so many years.
Yeah. And I got to say, the Jets, Adam Gase gets a lot of criticism, as well he should, and his teams always start out slow in the season and during games, and they did yesterday. But again, all cliches applying for the COVID slow starts for the offenses. But they were game, and in the end, they made some defensive plays. But yeah, Josh Allen, I think through the first halves of yesterday's game, and I watched Red Zone, Josh Allen was probably getting the most love of anybody, including Wilson and Rodgers, because we expect that from them. And I don't think we expected it from him. He's considered a weakness for that Bills team. And if he's not now, that all of a sudden, that division, which we thought, maybe Miami can win, 9 or 10 games and better team than they have been. I think it's going to end up being very top heavy between them and New England, between Buffalo and New England.
Lenny saying KC, Baltimore still the best teams in the NFL. I don't think anything changed our minds about that at all.
No,
obviously, Baltimore looked great. Lamar looked great. Kansas City looked great on Thursday night. It's going to be interesting. And Josh Allen, what is it year 3 for Josh Allen?
I believe it's year 3 for
and that's traditionally when quarterbacks come into their own.
Right.
So it'll be fun. It's going to be fun, but it is overreaction time. It really is overreaction time. The 49ers, because the Cardinals, the Rams, and the Seahawks won, the 49ers are in dead last.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a disappointing season, John. I mean, Super Bowl runner-ups to last place in the NFC West. That's really a tough.
Is it time for Shanahan to go? I think
I
don't think it's too early.
He's obviously on the hot seat.
Well,
He and Lynch.
Speaking of hot seats,
in
my mind, and I don't think this is an overreaction, the hottest of hot seats is Matt Patricia in Detroit. Because they fired Jim Caldwell after a 9-7 season, Mark. And since Matt Patricia's been there, he's won 9 games. He's like 9-23. And they have in Matthew Stafford a good quarterback.
Okay, so that's 32 games, roughly. Probably 33 games because it's 2 seasons plus 1.
Yeah, I think they're 9-23
out of those 33
1.
games, John.
I think they're 9-23.
How many of those games have the Lions had the lead in the fourth quarter out of those 33 games?
32.
Yeah,
probably.
I think so. Yesterday they had a 20-0 lead. That's their brand now.
Yeah.
It's like get out to a huge lead and then let the other team win in the end at the last second in the fourth quarter. It is a real testament to an inability to close.
Yeah.
And you have to, in my mind, lay that on the head coach.
Absolutely.
So if he can't turn that around, and I agree, if this kind of pattern continues throughout the year, then
he won't make the end of the regular season. In my
he probably won't.
And I'm never in favor of firing a coach during the season. And I know it's week 1 and overreaction, but to that point, and I had no idea until I read, he has the same amount of wins in he's coming into his 3rd season. Same amount of wins as Jim Caldwell had in his final season. And boy, isn't that the story of the Lions? They find a coach that can get them to play consistently, from 7-9 at the worst to maybe an 11-5 season. And it's just not good enough for them because they can never have any success in the playoffs. And they throw that guy aside and then they put the wrong guy in charge. It's could be a long year. And Matthew Stafford reminds me of another quarterback that I wanted to touch on because we both talked about Phillip Rivers and how I would like to have him see success. Inexplicably, you can't stand him. Personally, you've said that you hate him as a person.
I don't. No.
Though you think he's a fine quarterback.
No. Personally.
Isn't that what you said?
No. Personally, okay. And again, I know that you love to try and promote false narratives and continue to say it for years. Mm-hmm. And if we're fortunate enough to have this show for years, I guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, and others that are listening, that 10 years down the line, that will be what most people think, my opinion of Phillip Rivers. I like him as a human. I think he's funny. I like the fact he has 9 kids. I think he's feisty. I like all that. But as a player, he's not only really vanilla, he seems not very clutch in the playoffs. And it's just sort of in the end, as a player, it's like, And
he hasn't been very clutch at the end of games when they've had an opportunity, when they were down 1 possession. And we saw it yesterday against Jacksonville. The time, and I know timely is not the untimely interception, but it always, it just seems that, and full disclosure, didn't watch a ton of Charger games over the last couple of years, but every highlight you saw when they were behind in the 4th and trying to come back was Phillip Rivers throwing an interception. So disappointing loss for Indianapolis, I think, going to Jacksonville. I think really though, Jacksonville, the only stadium with fans, that may have been the deciding factor for the game because Mark, they had 16,000 fans at Jacksonville, or as they call it, a sellout.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it was, but really, really disappointing for Rivers in that game as well.
And how about the Las Vegas Raiders, John?
I thought that
traveling across the country.
Yes. And involving themselves in a shootout.
And they had a nice lead, and then the Panthers stormed back, and the Raiders responded and won that ball game. That's a big win for them, I think.
It is a very, very big win for them. I also think I was somewhat impressed by Carolina because everybody, they're among the teams that are talked about when you talk about who you think will have the worst record in football. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, 2 NFC South teams lost, 3 NFC South teams lost yesterday.
That's right. The Washington Football Club is a top.
No, that's NFC division. East. They're in the NFC.
What did you say?
NFC South.
I'm sorry.
3 of the 4 teams lost. And I tell you what, if you put those 3 teams in a round robin right now, Carolina, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay, I don't think any of them separated themselves from the other yesterday. In fact, I think Atlanta played better than Tampa Bay for portions. Offensively, certainly they played better. And Matt Ryan played a little bit better. And I'm not going to overreact on the Buccaneers, but I do think people overreacted in their belief that Tom Brady was going to step in and that offense was going to be high powered right away. It's going to take them a little bit of time. And I think they will right the ship, frankly.
I do too. And we'll see about Atlanta. A lot of us thought Atlanta, because they finished strong, would have a good year, but it's clear that they're the same Atlanta Falcons that we've seen in the last few years. And Green Bay is Aaron Rodgers is going to win the MVP, and Russell Wilson won't for the 12th year in a row will not get one MVP vote.
Right, but he'll win the NFC.
He will walk into the Hall of Fame with multiple Super Bowls and having not one writer ever voting for him for MVP. It's just how it goes. But yeah, it was a good day. It's the Niners are last in the West. You guys, the Washington football team, I believe we're still waiting on the Giants tonight. Right. But right now you're atop the NFC East. No one else has won a game in the NFC East.
Cowboys were kind of what we thought they might be, though you were disappointed by their offense. I didn't think they'd win going to LA. I thought that was a lot to ask.
Yeah.
But
the Rams are obviously, I think, going to have a better season than their last year, 9-7. We both discussed that. We both agree there. But I thought the Cowboys offense, now maybe we just give LA's defense a lot of credit, but I thought their offense was a little anemic.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it was as explosive as it needed to be. It reminded me of, Jason Garrett, the Garrett years.
That was all over. You weren't following on Twitter, and I was last night, and I swear that was I'm not even going to say every other. It was 2 out of 3 tweets was, is Jason Garrett calling the plays thing? But, people have to remember, Mike McCarthy is a conservative play caller. I mean, that was one of the issues with him in Green Bay, was that Aaron Rodgers thought they should open the offense up a bit, and the argument was always, well, they didn't put the weapons around Aaron Rodgers, but there's also a school of thought that that's McCarthy's conservatism. But I thought defensively against a Rams team that has talent, that running back by committee looks like it's going to work for them. I thought defensively the Cowboys played pretty well.
Yep.
But to your point, the offense, like many others, are really going to have to show improvement. I want to jump to my team for just a minute, the Washington football team. Nice win. You know me. Adjustments are the thing that I find most important in a coach. I think it's what makes the best coaches. Obviously, at some point down 17-0, they made defensive adjustments. They have a very good front. Chase Young looks like a no-brainer pick. Sack and a half. He stripped Wentz at one point. They got the fumble back. But he and Kerrigan, the veteran on the ends, just wreaking havoc. I thought Ron Rivera's defense dialed up some really, really great blitz packages against the admittedly horribly injured offensive line for Philadelphia. I think, Mark, somebody told me that Philadelphia in the course of preseason training, there were 8 offensive linemen that have been injured and are unavailable to them.
And that's tough. That's the Philly had that last year. They had that problem last year. Their entire receiving squad was hurt, and they got healthy just in time to win the division, but they're banged up again this year. But it's interesting because if you look at the total yards, Washington only had 239 total yards, and they got 27 points. They got 3 turnovers, and that was the key. And of course, Rivera is known as a defensive guy. He was a defensive player, obviously, and that is a big win. If you ask me, if you're down 17-0 and you look at your final box score and you're only getting 239 yards, and someone tells you you're going to win the game by 10, that's a big win, regardless.
Yeah. And also a lot of props to Dwayne Haskins for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think he started out 3 for 8, and then got untracked, and he was 17 for 35 for not a ton of yards, but no turnovers. Didn't turn the ball over at all, and that's for me, a guy really into his second year. I love that he didn't turn the ball over. And more importantly, the story is at halftime, because Ron Rivera is going through treatment for cancer, that he had to have an IV and couldn't speak to the team. And Dwayne Haskins was the guy who stepped up and gave the halftime speech. And I know there's a lot of people are dubious of the rah-rah thing, but I do think as a quarterback, particularly a young quarterback, to show leadership like that. He was doing it on the sidelines as well. So I was never in favor of bringing Haskins in Washington. But I think I'm at this point, I would say I'm very, very pleased by what I've seen from him last year as he improved.
Yeah.
And yesterday as well. Of course, it's week 1. The Washington football team will go 1-15, and I'll be, and Rivera won't make it out of the month as the head coach. Lenny actually believes that Adam Gase is on a hotter seat than Matt Patricia. I'm gonna argue it's Patricia. I still think Matt Patricia is on, because Gase has a third-year quarterback in Sam Darnold. How many starts under his belt? Matt Patricia has Matthew Stafford. And that team should be much
well. And to your
better.
point, the team he took over was 9-7, and the team that Adam Gase took over was not.
No,
they were the Jets.
Yes.
So I think there's a little bit more rope, but yeah, perhaps Lenny, you could be right. Joe says that there's a lot of talk about the Cowboy pass interference.
It was ticky-tack. I'll give it that. It was ticky-tack.
I agree, it was. But to Joe's point also, that it shouldn't have come down to that. No. We all know that. And there are decisions made in the game that come back to haunt you. And I know in the Niners case, they had a 4th and goal from the 1. They chose to go for it and they didn't make it. They would have kicked a field goal there. Then that last drive at the end of the game, they could have just kicked a field goal to win it, as opposed to try and score a touchdown where they were stopped at the Cardinals' 15-yard line. So it is what it is. And
Ron Rivera also, I just want to jump back, making a decision. And again, the Riverboat Ron thing, which I think is funny, but once Washington came all the way back to tie it at 17, they had a 4th down from the 2 or the 3, and they could kick a field goal to go up. And he chose not to kick the field goal and scored the touchdown at that point in time.
Yeah.
And now his defense was playing really, really well right then. But I think there were a lot of coaches that wouldn't have chosen to do that because they would have said, I don't want to come all the way back and then squander the opportunity to take the
lead.
Give
them the momentum.
But I like that Ron Rivera said instead, you know what? No, I have the momentum now. I want to steal that momentum from them a little bit more.
And if you think about it, Ron Rivera has nothing to lose, right?
Not at all.
So that's pretty fun. You got a guy called Riverboat Gambler, Riverboat Ron, in a position where he has nothing to lose. That's pretty fun.
And be unpredictable. If you're going to be a dog all year, and the Washington football team probably will. They're not going to be favorites in a lot of games unless they go on a nice little run here in the beginning. Be unpredictable. What do you have to lose? To your point, in that division particularly, which could end up
nothing to lose.
If the Giants lose tonight, the Washington football team could be the highlight of the year. The week 1 film. Who knows? All right, let's jump back to our progressive trivia. We are looking for an NFL football player, past or present. Once again, Mark Ferreira deftly handling the technical aspects of the show, showing a multitasking skill that I don't think any of us believed that Mark had. If we could jump back to the first set of clues.
Let's go back. See, there we go.
It's okay. It's okay.
Is.
Don't. I've set the bar lower. Remember who we're dealing with here. Okay, let's set the bar lower.
See,
are you unable to go back to the first set of clues?
No. I think I can do this. Hang on. Let's do it. And
this has got to be compelling for those listening to the podcast.
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is we're about to do another set of progressive trivia, and we're going to the screen right now as best we can to see if this works. Here we go. I'm doing the best I can. I'm so sorry for all of the problems that are happening right now. Here we go.
We're still back to the we're back to the second set of clues. All right, I'm going to read the first set of clues, Mark. We're gonna stop right here. We're not going to go through this any longer. Keep those up. I'm going to read the first set of clues for anybody listening. I spent 10 plus years in the NFL. I played for multiple teams, all in the NFC. I'm a 5-time Pro Bowler. My career numbers: 600 plus receptions, 7,500 plus yards, 70 plus touchdowns. Here now, the second set of clues. I've missed only 7 games in my entire career. It's kind of a little bit of an Iron Man, Mark. We know 10 plus, so at least 11 years, only missed 7 games.
That's amazing.
I played in the ACC, played in the Atlantic Coast Conference. I've been a first-team All-Pro, and I've led the league in touchdown receptions. Led the league in touchdown receptions. So there you go. We have slated in at this point, Mark, to talk a little about NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball. My question to you would be, do you have anything to add to anything that may have been said about those sports right now? Because I have to be honest with you, I pretty much stayed with football all weekend.
Well, what's interesting to me is the Nuggets. It's the fact that that's a 3-3 series.
I wrote them off.
I still think the Clippers are going to win,
but they haven't looked. I mean, they've looked not. I mean, it does. At times, the Clippers have looked like a bad team in this little collapsy couple of games, in my mind.
And I don't understand, frankly. I really don't. I think the only thing I can point to is that, which I've said this before, Doc is a bit of a playoff clam, and I expected the Clippers to do what the Lakers did, to sort of run over their opponent on the way. I think we all did. Conference Finals.
I think we all agreed, because the Nuggets are a talented but young that's the way the NBA works. You generally get boat raced when you come up against a better team in the playoffs after winning a series, and then the next year maybe you take them to 7 games. But to your point, this is as surprising as any outcome during the NBA playoffs to me so far.
I agree. I thought once the Nuggets won Game 6, I thought, okay, it's Game 6, or Game 5, I should say. I thought, okay, 3-2. I believe they beat not Utah, but the team they played first, the Clippers, which I can't even recall at the moment, but they beat them 4-2. And I thought they were going to beat the Nuggets 4-2. And so there it is. It's interesting. They won't have that much momentum.
They beat the Mavs, by the way.
The Mavs.
They beat the Mavs, by the way.
They won't have that much momentum coming into the Western Conference Finals if they win Game 7. Now, the Lakers will be rested, and that's probably good. But the Lakers so far have really used Game 1 to feel out their opponent, and then they've gone on a run and won the next 4.
And we've written them off every time.
Yeah, for both series. But it's different. The Nuggets, however, will have a lot of momentum if they somehow come back from 3-1 while the Lakers are sitting there on their hands. I don't think the Nuggets will have enough to get by them, but I think that momentum may carry them for a ways, because coming back from 3-1 and winning a series is big. I don't know what's going to happen. I think the Clippers, I have a 95% certainty that the Clippers are going to win that series.
I mean, I would still be shocked if the Clippers don't win the series, but I will say, maybe not shocked, but I'm incredibly surprised that the Nuggets have pushed this to a 7th game. I really never expected it, and I think to me it almost assures that you're going to see the Lakers in the final. I know that's what you want anyway, but I just I don't trust the Clippers in these situations. They should have shut this down a couple of games ago, had a nice little rest themselves. And I don't like them against a rested Los Angeles Laker team. NHL, just very, very quickly, Tampa Bay up 3-1 on the Islanders. I think I'm
happy about that.
Yeah, I think there's the Islanders. That was a nice little run, and they were a fun story. But I think Tampa Bay takes that the rest of the way. Major League Baseball,
Stars are in control. Looks like the Stars are in control as well, right? In the West.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a Dallas Tampa Bay final. I think it's actually a pretty good final. Good time to be a Tampa sports fan, football notwithstanding, Mark. Because the Rays,
yeah.
And the Rays over their last 10 have only played 500 ball. The rest of the division doing the same thing. Boy, we've seen a lot of this year. That these divisions, I guess maybe it was the layoff. I don't know what it is, but going through these periods where, there's not really a lot of dominance in baseball, and teams are playing a lot of 500 baseball right now. But Tampa Bay up 3.5 on Toronto, 4 on New York. The American League Central is still a decent battle. Minnesota and Chicago at the top. Cleveland's starting to fall off a little, 4.5 back.
Chicago's playing very well.
Yes, yeah, they are. They're 8-2 over their last 10. So the White Sox, who they were, that's funny. There were a lot of folks, MLB TV, ESPN, who were saying you don't think a lot about them, and it's true. You think Chicago baseball, you think the Cubs, but the White Sox could be a difficult out for anybody. I love Oakland out in the West, is up by 6.5 on Houston at this point. While everybody's mathematically still in it, I think Oakland's got that division. Moving over to the senior circuit, the Miami Marlins are still a great surprise, 3.5 back of Atlanta. And they're kind of all playing 500 ball there as well. The Cubs are starting to separate a little bit from the Cardinals, though no one in that division played better than 500 ball over the last 10. And the Dodgers still up, but that really fun San Diego Padre team, who I think could give people all kinds of trouble in the playoffs. Only 3 behind at this point, I believe. Is it 3? It's 2.5 behind. Joe Connolly, by the way, has gotten our progressive trivia correct. So congratulations to Joe Connolly.
So where's your emotional state? At least it was the second set of clues.
Yeah, I'm okay with it being the second set of clues. If I get through the second set of clues, I'm okay with it. It's just when it goes in the first that it's just...
Now, we realize Amanda, Joe's wife, has publicly accused Joe of cheating whilst... during progressive trivia.
Right.
And while there's all kinds of speculations as to what may be motivating that from her point of view, it would be odd for her to publicly accuse him of something that he actually didn't do. So I tend to believe he cheats.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. Mark Ritter calling out Joe Connolly.
I'm just agreeing with his wife. I'm just agreeing with that. There's evidence out there. Joe has made no defense, by the way. He hasn't put up any defense.
He's now saying fake news. And you know that anybody who says that is either nuts or lying. So there you go.
That's
Joe may be nuts. He's a Cowboy fan.
That's exhibit B, John.
We're all nuts to a certain extent. So he may be nuts as a Cowboy fan. But I'm going to give Joe credit. That as a Cowboy fan, I expected, like I've seen some of my Cowboy fan friends screaming about the interference call.
Sure.
Joe realizing, you know what? We shouldn't have been in that position. But again, it's week 1. So let's not panic. All right, let's give the next set of clues in our progressive trivia that Joe got.
All right.
See if we can help everybody else out. And then we'll jump back. We'll probably still talk a little more NFL, but I do want to talk about college football, less on the field than off the field, actually. But let's get to our next set of clues. Now, the question remains, can Mark Ferreira get back to the first set? Nice.
How about that?
Well done. Look at you. You're learning.
Perhaps.
Mark's a coach's favorite. Never making the same mistake twice.
We'll see.
By the way, Joe's wife, Amanda, says she's just a good human, Mark. That's it. That's what she's saying. All right, here we go. I've spent 10 plus years in the NFL. I played for multiple teams, all in the NFC. A 5-time Pro Bowler, career number 600 plus receptions, 7,500 plus yards, 70 plus touchdowns.
All right, now hang on. Let's see if this works.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah.
Hang on for 1 second.
No problem.
And there you go.
I've only missed 7 games my entire career. I played in the ACC. I've been first team All-Pro, and I've led the league in touchdown receptions. Final set of clues. I've never won a Super Bowl. I'm in the top 3 touchdown receptions by active players. How about that? He's
it's fun.
Number
fun
3,
stuff.
actually. I played 4 seasons of college basketball and only 1 of college football. And finally, I scored the Chicago Bears' first touchdown of 2020 in their big win yesterday.
That was a big win. Big comeback win for the Bears. So there's
Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, I honestly, there was a lot of talk about Trubisky starting, and Colin Cowherd had a big thing about how the Bears aren't willing to admit their mistake. I think it's probably smart because, as we've seen from Nick Foles, he's fine coming off the bench. He might be better coming off the bench. And if you benched Trubisky and went with Foles, Do you think Trubisky coming off the bench is better? I just think that screws with the youngster's head. I think this was the smart choice to make.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that. And the evidence is in, speaking of evidence, that Nick Foles could be considered a better backup quarterback than a starting quarterback.
Frank Reich, Don Strock. I mean,
and the evidence is there. Nick Foles went in for Carson Wentz when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So there that is. And if Mitch Trubisky knows that and gets that confidence boost, if you will,
and I just
from being named the starting quarterback, well, it looks good. And then on top of it, it's a nice comeback, a very nice comeback from 20 points down.
Yeah, it really is. And again, we brought up the Lions issues, the problems that they've had. But I think if you're the Bears, the fact that your young quarterback brought you back is more important. A couple of teams we haven't talked about before we jump into college football for a second, Mark. We mentioned the Baltimore Ravens just in passing.
Yeah.
A very dominant victory for them. Now they were playing the Cleveland Browns.
A lot of people had a lot of love for Cleveland before the season. It's like the third consecutive preseason where Cleveland had a lot of love.
Yeah. Now, by the way, Lenny's saying we shouldn't put Mitch Trubisky on a pedestal. Not putting him on a pedestal, just simply saying that I think Chicago, they made the right choice in start and having Trubisky as their starter early in the season. And again, I just think sometimes we give up on quarterbacks too easily. And I think you see the teams that lack success in the NFL, Mark, are teams that give up on coaches and quarterbacks on a regular basis.
Right.
So that's just what I want to say about that. But Baltimore looks really good.
Yeah, they look great.
They look really, really good.
Yeah.
They, to me, looked better offensively from the first snap than Kansas City did on Thursday night. Mahomes eventually got it together, but there was a little bit of that offense not firing on all cylinders.
There was a little they were missing, to your point.
Just off a little.
But that first drive they weren't. That first drive took them 6 plays to get a touchdown. Now, granted, the guy dropped the ball, and
that was a long touchdown pass too. So it wasn't,
it was, but they were matriculating pretty well.
They were.
And then after that, they were kind of missing, but then found their rhythm and scored 34 points. But you're right. And Lenny's right. Right now, nothing changes the Baltimore, Kansas City narrative. In the NFC, it's a little bit more murky.
It is muddy.
You've got Seattle. You've got Green Bay looking nice. You've got New Orleans looking very good. Arizona won.
Yeah.
Looking Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. I'm sorry. Kyler Murray is in his third year, I think, or is it his second year? Sorry. But he's ready. He's ready to explode. He had 91 yards on the ground. DeAndre Hopkins had over 150 yards through the air. He's unguardable. You can't cover the guy. And then you've got Larry Fitzgerald as well. Watch out for Arizona. Seriously.
Larry Fitzgerald too, making a just a heads up play on a 2-minute drill. Yesterday, Derek Abbott, our good friend, Coast Guard Academy assistant coach Derek Abbott, who joins the show quite frequently, just saying Larry Fitzgerald is smarter than you are, because he grabbed up. They were on a 2-minute drill. There wasn't much time left. They got a reception inbounds. DeAndre Hopkins makes a great catch inbounds. Fitzgerald grabs the ball from him and runs and puts it down so that they can spike it. And they spike it with about 3 seconds left. And
2 seconds.
Had he not done that, they would have run out of time. And it's just, those are the sort of plays, those are the sort of things that you look back into the season. If that team wins 10 games, you can look back and go, here, to your point about the 49ers, things that would have gone well for them last year just didn't break their way. And this is one of those veteran plays that I think Arizona, I didn't want to jump on the bandwagon as they're sexy to a lot of people. And I think second year for any quarterback can be very up and down, but they've got ingredients out there to be a pretty tough out.
Defensively, they're tough. They put a lot of pressure on Garoppolo. And you're absolutely right. That heads-up play by Larry Fitzgerald allowed them to kick a field goal at the very end of the half. And that 3 points is the difference. Again, because if the Niners were at the Arizona's 15-yard line, At the end of the game, they would have kicked a field goal.
Yeah.
That would have ended the game and they would have won. And I agree. Those tiny little things that work out well, if they're 10-6 at the end of the year, make the playoffs, they don't make the playoffs because of that one play, that one decision, game of inches. And that's what happens. And that's what happened with the 49ers and with the Cardinals. So,
and that attention to detail stuff is stuff that you, for years, and I said it, you went to Patriots training camp, and I went to Patriots training camp when Disney used to pay people to do that sort of thing. And the attention to detail. I was there like the second day at one point, and they were practicing knocking the ball out of the back of the end zone on a blocked punt to prevent a touchdown and just give up a safety. The second day. Some teams aren't even on special teams until the second week, for God's sake.
Arizona also blocked a punt, which led to a touchdown because they only had to have a 10-yard drive to score a touchdown. So they did those little things very, very well. Joe Connolly with the 2 games tonight. Tennessee against Denver, and Pittsburgh against the Giants. Tennessee is favored.
Yeah.
Over Denver. I like Denver in that game.
Me too.
I think Denver's going to win, and I think Pittsburgh will probably cover. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Denver, and I'm going to go with Pittsburgh, and we'll see. Now, right now, I'm 3-0 against the spread, John. I have to mention that.
I know that.
You did pick Miami, didn't you?
I picked Miami. Yes, I picked Miami, and I picked I picked Los Angeles to beat Dallas.
Okay, so you were 1-1.
Yeah.
And you didn't pick it right Thursday night, correct? You didn't think they'd cover.
I did not think they would cover. No, I'm wrong on that as well.
So you're 1-2.
This means a lot to you. Means a lot to you, doesn't it?
Well, I think since I'm so proficient at the PowerPoint, I think I'm going to have to create some standings.
All right. Fair enough.
Now, again, it's week 1, and you're a fool, meaning I'm a fool, to have any hubris after week 1. But here I am, full of it, because it's the only thing I have to hang my hat on because I'm so sad about the Niners.
Again, week 1. Don't lose too much sleep over it. Yeah, I agree with you. I like Pittsburgh tonight. I think Pittsburgh can make noise in the AFC.
I do too.
I think they're going to be very good. And I do think Denver, I am going with the prevailing notion. Everything we've heard about Drew Lock has been excellent. Our good friend Kendall Gammon, who 10 plus years in the National Football, I think 15 years, I believe, in the National Football League. 15 years in the NFL, been part of the Chiefs broadcasting team, radio shows, a guy who knows a lot. And he goes back to knowing Drew Lock when he was in junior high playing basketball with his kid. And he's just like, he's a special athlete. And it does seem like everything that we hear is that he's going to improve the quarterback play of that team, which they certainly need. I don't know if they're ready for prime time as far as playoffs are concerned, but I think going into Denver is still, that's the one place because of the mile high part of it that the fans maybe mean less not being there because you're dealing with, the few places where you still have home field advantage. Miami's going to have it in South Florida, as is Tampa for the first few weeks of the season. And you're going to have it in Denver. All right. I want to cover college football, not so much on the field, except to say Trevor Lawrence looked great against Wake Forest on Saturday night, did absolutely nothing to disabuse me of my idea that he will be a bust in the National Football League. I still just don't see him having success, but Clemson looks pretty good.
Now, again,
the Big 12 looks terrible.
Can you please give us?
Don't like the cut of his jib.
Okay.
It just looks awkward.
No, you just don't like him.
I'm doing what they
don't like him.
I'm doing what they attacked, what Moneyball attacked. There's that great scene in Moneyball where he's showing Chad Bradford. Do you remember Chad Bradford, the pitcher for the A's? And he threw submarine. I mean, it was even weirder than Kent Tekulve's motion. It was just this bizarre motion. And the teams basically stopped scouting him or gave up on him because he just threw oddly. And maybe it's just the fact that I've never seen quarterbacks who are that tall and that skinny have success. And we've seen them come into the league. I just haven't seen them have success. And I still believe that Trevor Lawrence will not be. I wouldn't take him with the overall number 1 pick. I'm just saying.
Notre Dame looked good. I enjoyed seeing that.
They did. They absolutely did over Duke. So 2 schools that neither you or I could ever have gotten into.
No way. No
battling it on the field, but not a lot else. I think the Big 12 teams look I mean, it's always top heavy in the Big 12.
Well, it's, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma played Missouri State. So what are they doing playing Missouri State, John?
Well, I think you have to get people on your schedule that you can get on your schedule this year. I think this would be the year where you can't really pick on teams anywhere near as much as you in the past. I mean, I think that is a credible argument when
Texas beat UTEP, killed them. UTEP, really? UTEP?
Well, again, who was available for them to play?
Now, okay, whatever. I think they can play the conference. Wasn't that the whole deal? Is that
and they will play the conference
just
as
stick
well.
to the conference schedule.
They will play the conference as well, but they just they're not just playing only the conference.
All right. So what about the Big Ten, John?
Yes, that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. They were going to have a vote yesterday. I guess that didn't come to pass, or at least we've got no information on that. The possibility that they could get back to play by, from what I heard, the earliest would be maybe the second week in October.
Mid-October is
mid-October.
Yes.
Okay, into the second week of October. I still don't think it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, perhaps you feel differently.
Oh, no. I think it's less than 50%.
And I think part of it is the logistics of ramping the season up by that time. I think it's going to be a little difficult.
I just think they may have overreacted to the medical evidence that came through about long-term effects for younger people. And
well, I think
there were two examples of it, and two out of, hundreds of thousands of students. I mean,
right.
I
think they made their decision too early. I mean, I just said at the time, I remember having Derek Abbott, and we talked about at the time. And I said, I didn't know why they had to make the decision that early. I thought in that, knowing what I knew at that time, if I were forced to vote, I would have voted not to have the season, but I just didn't think the decision had to be made that early.
They could have waited a little bit. Certainly not as late as now,
but if
a lot later than they did do it, because maybe more information would have come in, and they also would have seen the other three big Power 5 conferences, step up and play, and they may have said, let's give this a go. I just think they panicked a little bit, they overreacted, and you're right, they made the decision too early.
A couple of things, though, that I think, that still affect the decision making, and that is that there is, if not scientific consensus, there is, or medical consensus, there are concerns of there being a ramp up again in cases in cold weather.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that had something to do with Big Ten decision making as well. You're going to move into cold weather, obviously. God, it snowed in Colorado like a last week at some point in time. So I think that had something to do with it. I think the fear of getting everything back in motion again. Now it's the second week in October and the number of cases are going up. I think we've seen that on college campuses, it's very hard to, it's harder to prevent. The Virginia Tech game was canceled. We don't know if they're going to get to play. That was going to be the opening game, but Virginia Tech had a lot of guys who tested positive. Tennessee had a number of players. They had to stop practicing. The SEC came out and said, I thought this was very, very interesting, Mark. The ACC came out and said, if we get down to 8 teams, we can't play.
The ACC or the SEC?
I believe it was the SEC.
Right? Oh, the SEC. Okay.
It was the SEC. Did I say ACC? My apologies. But the fact that they went public with that, I thought was interesting. I think and again, I think it's smart to keep people informed of, this is what our thinking is, because there is the possibility that this could change on a dime. I don't think it will, but I think that's still affecting the decision-making in the Big Ten. I think had they voted, to your point, 2 weeks, 10 days later, I think they probably would be playing, but I don't know with the uncertainty about colder weather if it's going to.
I think that's a very good point. You have Syracuse in the ACC. You have a few other, Pittsburgh, cold weather, but not many.
No,
by far
Maryland would be the
coldest,
next furthest.
By far the coldest conference is the Big Ten.
Sure,
you've got Minnesota, for crying out loud, Michigan,
right. Wisconsin,
Ohio. It's by far the coldest. It's by
Right.
far the coldest conference.
The swing
Never
state
thought of it that
conference.
way, but it's the coldest conference.
It's the coldest conference. Penn State. I mean, it is. It's the coldest. The swing state coldest conference.
Yeah,
Is
swing
what
state
it is.
coldest conference. So there it is.
So I think that's going to affect them. I agree with you. I think it's less than 50-50. For me, though, I'm actually creeping up because I thought there was zero chance.
yeah,
And I now think it's probably resides 40-60 at best. It's, I just see how, it's the analogy of turning an aircraft carrier. It's how you now swing things into play. I don't know what teams have been doing that, perhaps teams have been preparing as best they possibly can in case it happens. But we'll see if we get into the fall and we don't have the surge and they start by the end of the month and play only conference games through the end of December, and then they can be eligible for some sort of bowl games in January. Maybe some of these your favorite Poulan Weed Eater Bowl, which I believe is defunct decades now, but the Astro Bluebonnet Bowl, all these bowls that you and I remember that are now gone.
I'd much rather see the Astro Bluebonnet Bowl than the Bell Helicopter Military Industrial Complex Bowl.
Why do you hate the military?
I don't. I just hate the top. I just hate the top brass.
Yes, there you go. And
Just kidding.
You hate all but about 7 bowl games as well. I think needs to be pointed out.
Well, the Holiday Bowl. What is the
Holiday Bowl is always a classic.
What's the San Diego game that is
Poinsettia, the San Diego Poinsettia Bowl?
Ugh.
Well, that's
Some of those things just mean like what's the point?
That's your Northern California
elitism. I know.
Yes,
I agree.
Of course
I
it
agree.
is.
Of course it is.
Good
I'm
gracious.
not arguing that point, John. I relish my elitism every now and then.
All right. I think that's about it. There, like I said, not a lot of compelling games in college football. It should be pointed out the Les Miles experiment in Kansas is not going as suspected. Coastal Carolina, which I believe is a surfing academy. I do believe that Coastal Carolina is not an accredited university.
No,
it is a surfing academy
for nuns.
And they now.
No, nuns on surfboards.
Well, listen,
pretty compelling.
I'm more in favor of you putting the college for nuns by the sea if there is indeed nun surfing, because then I think there's a reason for
there's a purpose for having it by the sea.
Yes, of course, and I'm not opposed to that. But that's about it. Games will ramp up over the next couple of weeks. We're going to start to see SEC gets started, I believe, next week. We'll get to it later this week. We'll look at the big games. Did you watch any college football at all, Mark?
I watched a little of Navy BYU, not on Saturday, but prior to that. And I thought, wow, way to show up, Navy.
Listen, as a Navy fan,
good job, Navy. I like Navy. That's my favorite.
I don't
that's
know,
my favorite academy. I don't hate the military.
You hate the military.
I do not.
You hate the military.
I do not hate the military. I like the Navy's my favorite. I wanted them to show up. Although I don't hate BYU the way you hate BYU.
I don't care.
I don't hate Notre Dame the way you hate Notre Dame.
I can't say.
What's the common thread? You hate BYU, you hate Notre Dame, and you hate Trevor Lawrence. Just hate. I don't know where you hate the fairy tale, John.
I don't hate Trevor Lawrence. I love Trevor Lawrence as a college football player.
You hate the cut of his jib.
I do.
Which
I don't like the cut of his jib.
Has to do with his personality.
No, it has to do with
how he looks.
The aesthetics of Trevor Lawrence, and I love the long hair.
Who's elite now? Who's elite now? The aesthetics of Trevor Lawrence. I'm opposed to.
I fully admit to it, but you say, "Oh, I don't like the San Diego County Bowl because in the competition it makes everybody look worse if everybody gets in a bowl game at 5." And it's really just because Southern California should not have another bowl. Though I believe the
Naval Credit Union Bowl. That's
Navy Federal Credit Union. Man, have you ever? They deserve a bowl.
Gosh, they do not. The Naval Federal Credit Union Bowl.
Yes. What's wrong with what? Why does the name of the bowl bother you?
It just points to the fact that it's unnecessary. If the name isn't compelling,
how's that any different than just the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl?
But it's at least the Fiesta Bowl. At least you still have Fiesta, Rose, Sugar, Orange in there. What's the other big one that I'm missing?
Peach.
Peach,
Cotton.
no. Fiesta, sugar,
orange,
rose, orange. There's another big one I'm missing.
Well, the Fiesta, rose,
sugar,
orange, sugar are your big four.
All right, then I'm not missing any.
No, you're really not. Are you thinking of there's the Gator Bowl and the
Outback? I'm okay with Outback Bowl. I'm okay with.
Why are you okay with the Outback Bowl?
Because the Outback Bowl's it's been established as it's a pretty decent name. It's not the Naval Federal Credit Union Bowl, really.
Well, what is
Bell
wrong?
Helicopter Military Industrial Complex
Again,
Bowl?
so what are the common denominators here?
The common
You're going to accuse me. It's like as long as it's not named after the military.
Well, maybe that's
God.
it. Maybe
Would you be happy if it were the Baby Killer Bowl? Is that what you want, Mark?
No,
is that where you stand?
I do
on
not.
This?
I do not.
My God, why
Doesn't
do you
have
hate our
anything to do
people?
with
I'd like
that.
to say that I salute all of our people in
As do I.
our
all
folks
our
in
people,
uniform.
All our people in uniform.
Active duty or retired. Mark
I
hates
salute. I do not. I do not hate them.
you. Wow.
I respect them and salute them. And we are very lucky to have the military we've had. And I do not take any of that for granted. However, I'm not a supporter of the Federal Credit Union Bowl. I'm not a supporter of the Bell Helicopter Military Industrial Bowl. I'm not a fan of the Poinsettia Bowl. I'm not a fan of some of the other bowls that are out there. Let's look at some of the other bowls. Let's take a look right now, John.
Let me. You know what? Can I give the answer to our progressive trivia while you're doing that? Is that or you would have to multitask far too much, but I think I should give the answer.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll share, and you can give all the clues as well. How about that?
All right, I'll give all the clues, and then we'll let Mark run through the bowl games, and I'll tell you why they're compelling.
All right, so here we go.
Nothing like seeing the 5th place ACC team versus the 6th place SEC team. That's good football. I spent 10 plus years in the National Football League. I played for multiple teams, all in the NFC. I'm a 5-time Pro Bowler, career number 600 plus receptions, 7,500 plus yards, 70 plus touchdowns. I believe 75 after yesterday. I have only missed 7 games my entire career. I played in the ACC at Miami. I've been a first team All Pro. I led the league in touchdown receptions. Final set of clues. Never won a Super Bowl. I'm in the top 3 touchdown receptions by active players. He is actually number 3. I played 4 seasons of college hoops at Miami and only 1 of football. I scored the Chicago Bears' first touchdown of 2020 on a pass from the aforementioned Mitchell Trubisky. The answer is Jimmy Graham. I had forgotten that Jimmy Graham only played 1 year of football at Miami. And I believe it was he had a year of eligibility because he graduated early. He played 4 years on the basketball team.
All right. Well, there it is. Congratulations to Joe Connolly, who got it right first. And I'm going to go through some of these bowls that I also hate above and beyond the Naval Federal Credit Union Bowl and the Bell Helicopter Military Industrial Complex Bowl. First of all, the Bahamas Bowl, really?
They played in the Bahamas.
The Camellia
Don't you love
Bowl.
the Bahamas? The what?
The Camellia Bowl, John. Camellia Bowl played in Montgomery, Alabama. It's usually the MAC versus the Sun Belt. Ooh. Pop the popcorn.
So you don't believe the MAC and the Sun Belt teams that do well should be given bowl games at the end of the season as a reward?
If they win their conferences or if they
That's it? Just the conference winner?
8-2 record or even 7-3 or 7-4.
It's only the big conference teams that get to go 6-6, Mark. It's never the Louisianas of the world or the Ball States of the world that go 6-6. Those go to Arn when they're 6-6. Or
the
Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa.
Yeah. Wow.
Gasparilla's a big pirate festival over there in Tampa. You would love it.
The Mitsubishi Motors Las Vegas Bowl. That's fine, I suppose. The Myrtle Beach Bowl. It's in Myrtle Beach.
You're a degenerate gambler.
New Mexico Bowl. Serve Pro First Responder Bowl. I suppose.
Yeah, go after that. You must hate that too.
I know I should support that one. That's for sure.
Good Lord.
SoFi Hawaii Bowl. Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl. Really?
That's played at. I believe they play that at the baseball stadium, which used to be AT&T Park. I don't know what it is anymore.
It's in Frisco. It's in Frisco, Texas.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
And the tie-ins are the AAC or Conference USA or MAC or MWC. Yay. Ooh.
Wow, you just don't like small conference football. You hate small conference football. You are the NCAA.
The Liberty Bowl, I could get behind the Liberty Bowl. The Cheez-It Bowl, really? That's in Orlando. Oh, by the way, that's ACC Big 12. I'm not in favor of the fifth place ACC team playing the fifth place Big 12 team, John. Well, I'd rather see 8-2 MAC teams in there. No, I am not an elitist when it comes to this. I am trying to eliminate mediocre Power 5 schools from getting to play a bowl game. I am the opposite of an elitist on this, and you, my friend, are all in favor of the status quo.
Great. I love postseason college football. I think it's fun to see teams from different conferences that you would not otherwise see play each other.
Here's the Cherry Bundy Boca Raton Bowl. That's in Boca Raton at the Howard Schnellenberger Field at FAU. Normal tie-in is AAC, CUSA, or MAC. The Duke's Mayo Bowl. All right, ACC Big 10. So the Duke's Mayo Bowl, ACC and Big 10, I'm guessing it's, Purdue versus North Carolina State or something like that.
That's a good basketball game. It's a hell of a basketball game, actually.
Well, there you go. Let's watch college basketball at that time of year, and it's thriving in January or in late December. Come on now.
Sunbelt's having a good year already. A couple of upsets this year already.
One of my favorite segments is actually telling you about all the bowl games with teams that who knows what, and John talking about why it's going to be
give you why it's a compelling game. Those are compelling games to me. I love that stuff. All right. Before we get out of here, we said tonight we both believe that Pittsburgh
covers.
Will cover. I think they'll win outright and cover, and also slap another 10 points on. I believe all of those things will happen. They are the favorite. What are they? 6-point favorites?
6-point favorites over the Giants.
Yeah.
So I think they cover that, and then Tennessee's a favorite at Denver.
I'll take Denver.
I am too. I don't
taking Denver straight up.
I don't trust Tennessee this year. And again, I didn't trust Tennessee last year. If you think about it, they barely snuck in, and then they got hot in the playoffs.
Yeah. And maybe that carries over for them. I mean, they played really in the playoffs. They played one bad half of football, and it was unfortunately the second half of the AFC Championship game. But other than that, I mean, they were the story of the playoffs last year, certainly. But I'm not finding a lot of people who think they're going to parlay that into consistent success. We'll see. It's week 1 though, so they'll probably go up and they'll slap 60 on Denver, and then win 4 more games for the rest of the season. All right, before we get out of here, anything else you feel the need to touch on?
Anything else I feel the need to touch on? Just the fact that the Giants, Padres, there were 2 cancellations. Alex Dickerson, a player for the Giants, tested positive, and so there was a 4-game series slated for San Diego. They had to cancel 2, and then they played a doubleheader yesterday, so they got 3 out of the 4 in there. And San Diego just rolled over the Giants. San Diego is a great baseball team. They're going to give Los Angeles a run for their money in the National League.
Well, and talk about teams in the postseason that are basically built to break your heart. The Los Angeles Dodgers are certainly that team. You just wonder, will it happen during the expanded playoffs this year, or will it happen in the World Series? Because it looks like they're going to go wire to wire in that division.
And we should throw out a little love to our friend Ann Macklin. She's a big Chicago Cubs fan, and they had a new no-hitter over the weekend. So congratulations.
They did, and I should have memorized the kid's name, but it's a great story because I believe he walked onto his college baseball team. He was a 22nd round pick in Major League Baseball. One of our show fans, David Lowe, who went to dentistry school at Northwestern, big Chicago Cubs fan. He texted me when he's like, we're 2 outs away from a no-hitter. And I did not do what I normally would do, which is I would put the game on. But he texted me the other day when the Orioles were up on the Yankees. Alec Mills, thank you, David Lowe, listening to the show. I'm watching the show. But he texted me that my Orioles were up on the Yankees. And, of course, I tuned in for extra innings and they lost. So I did not turn it on. So I think Alec Mills owes me a debt of gratitude for not killing his momentum.
Good call. And I thought you would have shamed David Lowe as well for saying, what are you doing talking about it with 2 outs left, David? And you didn't do that. You resisted shaming your friend.
Is texting talking about it? How does that fit in the pantheon of destroying good karma, which we all believe that completely? You know, my wife does not believe that that I still will get out of the chair I'm sitting in and move if my team is losing.
Yeah, no, I know how that works. We all know how that works, and somehow magically it affects the game. It really does. At least we all believe that. But yeah, no, I'm very happy about that. That's a lot of fun. The Cubs, I think, could make some noise in the playoffs. It's going to be a very interesting time. I think the Cubs will be there. I think the Braves could make some noise. And certainly the Padres, I think, will give the Dodgers the toughest time. But last year, no one suspected that the Nationals would have been the team to knock the Dodgers off in the division round.
Right.
And remember, it's 2 out of 3, John.
Yeah.
The first round is 2 out of 3. So
it's going to be interesting.
Anything can happen in a 2 out of 3. The NBA used to have that, remember? And there was a lot of upsets in the first round.
Oh, most famously when the Denver Nuggets, with Dikembe Mutombo at center, I think a team that averaged, what did they average, Mark? Between 18 and 30 points a game as a team?
I think it was 12.
And they came up against the Seattle Supersonics, I believe, at the time, who were the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the equivalent of the President's Cup is in the NBA, but I think they at least led the West in scoring, and they just got shut down. And that's one of the reasons they moved the first round to a best of 7.
Yeah. So it's going to be, there's 16 teams, there's 8 teams in each league that will qualify. So that first round is the best of 3.
Now, see, I don't like the 1-game playoff, though I do admit that the drama of it in the moment of watching it is good. I just always feel at the end of it, I really would like to see these teams play a 3-game at least a 3-game series, just because I think in baseball particularly, any 1 game means little or nothing at any point in time. But the 2 out of 3, that's going to be some cutthroat baseball.
It is. Right now, I don't see anyone touching the Dodgers at all. But
not till the divisional round.
I didn't see anyone touching the Dodgers last year. The Dodgers were the best team in Major League Baseball throughout the entire season.
Yep.
And they've been the same this year. This is a loaded ball club, and they are loaded for the future as well. They are incredibly well run. And if you're a Dodger fan, obviously you won a World Series, but you've won 7 straight divisions. You are clearly the dominant team in the West, and you've got to be happy with where your franchise is going. But yeah, it's been 32 years, John.
Right.
It's been 32 years. Most of the people on the planet were probably not born when the Dodgers last won the World Series. Think of it that way.
Yeah, it's crazy. By the way, that Alec Mills no-hitter for the Cubs, the 16th in Cubs history.
All right.
So congratulations.
Congratulations to the Cubbies.
Absolutely.
We've got a couple of Cub, listeners, regular listeners that are big Cubs fans. So we're happy for you.
All right. Well, we've done this the first time we've done it without Jeff. I think, Mark, I golf clap in your general direction. I think you did an outstanding job.
What a guy. Thank you,
handling
Johnny.
The technical aspects of the show, something that I hope never to have to learn. And I will fight against if you try to get me to learn it. We'll be back on Wednesday. By then, we'll know what the entire first week of the NFL has been. We didn't have any huge shocker, Mark. In my mind, we didn't have a huge shocker yesterday. So the only thing I could see as a huge shocker tonight would be if the Giants somehow blew out the Steelers.
Yeah,
that would be, and I don't see that happening as well. Not a good weekend for New York sports football fans, anyway, as far as we can see. All right, so that's it from here. I'm John Pelkey. That's Mark Ferreira. If you're listening on the podcast, what I just said means absolutely nothing, but we'll be back on Wednesday. And hopefully, Evil Vin Scully did not make an...
Uh-oh. See you later, everyone.